Welcome back to Investing Talk podcast. Today we're taking a close look at Nokia OJ, that's NOK. You sent us quite a bit of information, including a pretty detailed due diligence report from April 2025 and some recent news updates as well. Our mission really is to unpack what's most important for you to know right now about this company. So where should we start to get a handle on what's going on with Nokia?
Well, let's maybe start with just a quick picture of what Nokia actually is. It's a Finnish multinational operating in telecommunications, IT, and consumer electronics too. They basically work through four main areas: network infrastructure, think fixed, and mobile networks there. Then there's mobile networks, mostly radio access networks, cloud and network services, that's software and services. And finally, Nokia Technologies, which handles their patents and brand licensing. So they provide a lot of the essential gear, the nuts and bolts for the connectivity we all use, from mobile signals right down to your home Wi-Fi.
Got it. So, really foundational stuff for modern communication infrastructure. Now, your sources mentioned that in early 2025, the stock was seeing some, let's say, interesting market conditions. We don't have the exact price charts here, but there's a suggestion it might be undervalued, with maybe some potential link to their moves in AI and, of course, 5G. And we also saw they recently sold off their Alcatel submarine networks business. What was the thinking there?
Right, that sale of the submarine networks unit, it really signals a strategic move to sharpen their focus. By divesting that, Nokia seems to be uh, concentrating its resources on its core strengths, network infrastructure and the related tech, especially those bits with big growth potential like 5G and AI-driven network stuff. It lets them streamline operations, potentially boost profitability in the parts of the business they're keeping.
That makes sense. Doubling down where they see the best opportunities. Okay, let's shift to performance then. How's the business actually doing? Your info points to Nokia's Q1 2025 results. Net sales saw a 3% dip on a constant currency and portfolio basis. Just quickly for anyone listening, constant currency, basically adjusts for exchange rate swings, gives you a clearer view of the underlying business trend.
Correct.
But interestingly, the network infrastructure segment actually bucked that trend. It showed 11% growth. What's causing that difference?
That's a really key point. The strong showing in network infrastructure, it probably reflects operators continuing to invest in upgrading their networks. Think fiber, fixed broadband expansion. That growth could be fueled by just more demand for data, remote work, streaming, all that. The overall sales dip, well, that might be down to softer results elsewhere, or perhaps that divestment we just talked about starting to filter through to the top line. It really highlights where Nokia's current engine room is, doesn't it?
Interesting. So core infrastructure is humming along, even if the total picture was slightly down. What about their financial health overall? The numbers show a pretty solid net cash position, 3.0 billion, and total cash and investments of 7.2 billion as of the end of Q1 2025. That sounds quite healthy.
It certainly does. That strong liquidity, it gives Nokia a buffer, to handle market bumps, invest in R&D, maybe even look at strategic acquisitions. Keeping those cash flows healthy is also a good sign. It's just they're managing the business well, turning sales into actual cash. Some observers might look at that strong cash position, even with a small sales dip, and see it as a sign of underlying financial strength and, well, potential for future returns.
And speaking of returns, we also saw mention of a planned dividend for the 2024 financial year, up to EUR 0.14 per share, payments expected around May 12, 2025. And there's talk of share repurchases too. What message do those kinds of actions usually send?
Well, typically, those actions signal management's confidence. Confidence in the company's financial stability and its future prospects. Dividends give a direct return to shareholders. And share buybacks, they can reduce the share count, potentially boosting earnings per share and supporting the stock price. It suggests the leadership believes the stock might be undervalued and that returning capital to shareholders is a good use of their funds right now.
Okay, let's switch gears a bit. What gives Nokia its edge? Your sources highlight that big patent portfolio, especially in 5G, and their established global brand, obviously, in network infrastructure. They've also been working on cost efficiency, restructuring operations. How important are these advantages in what looks like a really tough market?
Oh, they're very significant assets. A strong patent portfolio, particularly in something like 5G, that's a real competitive barrier. It can generate licensing income, give them an edge in developing new products, and their brand recognition, built over decades, that builds trust with the big telecom operators, their main customers. The focus on cost leadership through restructuring, that helps their bottom line, lets them compete maybe more aggressively on price sometimes. But, they're up against heavy hitters like Ericsson and Huawei, so they constantly need to leverage these advantages. It's not static.
Right, it's a continuous fight for position. Their market standing is described as a challenger-leader hybrid. Can you unpack that a bit? What does that mean practically?
It sort of suggests that in certain areas, maybe certain technologies or regions, Nokia is right up there at the front, leading the pack. But in others, maybe where Ericsson or Huawei have a stronger foothold, historically, they're actively challenging, trying to gain ground. Could be through new tech, partnerships, pricing. It's a mix, really, reflecting how complex the global telecom gear market is.
Understood. Now, what about the bigger picture? The industry trends that might be helping Nokia. The sources mention the fast global rollout of advanced 5G networks and this growing demand for cloud-native network solutions.
Those are definitely key tailwinds. The ongoing 5G deployment that requires huge investment in network infrastructure that creates opportunities for companies like Nokia making the equipment and software. And the shift towards cloud-native solutions and networking that offers more flexibility, scalability, better cost efficiency for operators. Nokia is positioning itself there with its cloud and network services arm.
Makes sense. But of course, it's never just smooth sailing. What are some of the main risks they're facing? Regulatory scrutiny around supply chain security comes up, and also just the constant need for heavy R&D investment in this fast-changing tech space.
Absolutely critical risks, those two. Regulatory worries, particularly on supply chain security, can really impact where they can sell and who they can sell to. And the telecom industry just moves so fast. If they don't keep investing heavily in R&D, they risk falling behind technologically. That's a constant pressure. Other risks mentioned include potential litigation, broader economic uncertainties that might affect telco spending, and specific challenges noted in their radio access network, or RAN, business.
Okay. Let's touch on leadership quickly. Justin Hotard is president and CEO. Marco Weirin is the CFO. The view in your sources seems to be that the leadership is stable and effective. What's behind that assessment?
That view probably comes from looking at their recent strategic decisions, like the Alcatel submarine sale, the focus on core growth areas we discussed, and that's coupled with the strong financial position reported recently. Stable leadership provides consistency, lets them execute these long-term plans. Having a focus on innovation from the CEO and disciplined financial management from the CFO, that combination is pretty crucial in this kind of industry.
Right. Let's turn to valuation. Now, we don't have specific ratios like PE right here from these sources, but the report does suggest Nokia typically trades at a moderate price-to-earnings multiple, which seems pretty standard for the telecom equipment sector. Dividend yield isn't detailed, but we know they have a history of paying them. What should investors maybe take away from that?
Well, a moderate PE might suggest the market isn't pricing in, say, explosive growth, but it does recognize a certain level of stability and an established business.
Hmm.
And the history of dividends can certainly be appealing for income-focused investors. But look, without the specific current numbers, it's hard to make a firm valuation judgment just from this. You'd really need to compare current ratios to peers and Nokia's own historical levels.
Definitely requires more digging for a personal decision. And like any potential investment, understanding the risks is crucial. Beyond what we've already covered, supply chain, regulation, tech race, what else should people keep in mind?
Well, beyond those, potential litigation always carries some uncertainty. External macroeconomic factors, as we touched on, can influence customer spending. And those acknowledged challenges specifically within the RAN business, that's worth watching since it's a core part of mobile networks. These risks always need to be weighed against any potential upside, of course.
Good point. Now let's briefly compare Nokia to one of its main rivals, Ericsson. Your info shows both have steady revenue growth. Nokia has that solid net cash position, modest EPS. Ericsson has comparable margins, moderate leverage. And Nokia is seen as that challenger leader, while Ericsson is more often positioned just as a leader. What are the key takeaways from that quick comparison?
It really highlights that they're both navigating the same complex industry, but with slightly different financial structures and maybe market perceptions. Nokia's strong cash gives it flexibility. Ericsson's leader tag might reflect maybe a larger overall market share in some key areas. For you as an investor, it might come down to which profile better fits your own risk appetite and investment goals when you look at the two.
Okay, and finally, let's talk market sentiment. After that Q1 2025 report, Nokia's stock price took a bit of a hit. But analysts, for example, at JP Morgan Chase, kept an overweight rating. They did trim the price target slightly, but it still suggests some underlying confidence remains. So it seems like a mixed picture.
Yes, that sounds about right. The market's reaction to the Q1 numbers probably reflects that mixed performance. We talked about the strength in network infrastructure kind of offset by the overall sales decline. Analyst sentiment often looks a bit further out, So while there might be short-term questions, their view suggests the longer-term potential is still seen positively. Investors sometimes react quite quickly to immediate results, whereas analysts try to factor in the future strategy and outlook more.
And looking towards that future, what are some potential positive catalysts for Nokia? The sources mentioned focusing on core markets now after selling the submarine networks business and maybe continued margin improvements.
Right. Revenue growth in those key network infrastructure and mobile network segments will be absolutely vital. Continued improvement in their gross margins, that would also be a very positive signal for profitability. And yes, by focusing more tightly on their core areas after that divestiture, they could potentially unlock greater efficiency and better returns. But they still operate under the shadow of potential regulatory changes and, fundamentally, the pace of demand for 5G infrastructure globally. Those remain key things to watch.
So let's try and wrap this up for you. Based on this exploration of Nokia from the information provided, we see a company with a strong foundation in network infrastructure, a pretty healthy financial position right now, and some clear strategic moves aimed at capturing future growth, particularly in 5G and related tech. However, like any investment, especially in tech, there are definite challenges and risks to consider. It's a competitive field and it changes fast.
That's a good summary. This overview gives you a snapshot based on the documents you shared. For a really thorough understanding, you'd want to go deeper. Look at Nokia's official investor relations page. Their quarterly reports, transcripts of earnings calls are usually very informative. And consulting financial data platforms for detailed ratios, historical data, that's also key. Which really leads to the crucial question for you to think about. How do these factors we've discussed, the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, the risks, how do they actually align with your own investment goals and your personal tolerance for risk in the technology sector?
If you found this look at Nokia valuable, please do subscribe, like this recording, and maybe leave us a comment. We always appreciate hearing from you.